Satan. Children can have pretty wild imaginations, so no one bats an eye when a kid starts playing with an imaginary friend of theirs. They'll tell you all about their exciting adventures, and you smile and nod and say, "Oh, that's great, honey." But sometimes, those stories can be oddly specific and detailed. What I'm about to tell you is a true story that happened to a family friend. Decades ago, a baby was born in a small village in the Philippines, 2 months earlier than she was expected. Because she was so small, they nicknamed her Baby. Baby and her older cousin were very close, practically sisters. When Baby was about 4 years old, she would go off on her own a lot. "Where were you?" her cousin would ask her. She was about 7 at the time. "Playing with Sven," she'd reply. "Who's Sven?" "My friend." Her cousin assumed it was an imaginary friend because they lived in a very small village up in the mountains, and she was pretty sure there were no children named Sven nearby. But she did find it a very odd name choice. "So, what did you and Sven do?" "We went in his flying machine with a spinning top. It makes a lot of noise. We flew in the sky and went over the water." "Sounds fun," her cousin replied. She had no idea what she was talking about. The next time Baby disappeared, it was for a longer period of time than the last. "And where were you today?" "With Sven. He has these clothes that you wear underwater so you can breathe and you don't get wet. I saw lots of pretty fish." "Sounds fun." Again, she had no idea what she was talking about. Then one day, Baby and her cousin were walking down the street, and Baby pointed at a tree. "That's Sven's house. He took me to visit his mom and dad. They have a really nice house. And they have this snake, and he can paint really pretty designs with his tongue on these plates." And that's when her cousin knew something wasn't right. See, some Catholics believe that the snake is a sign of the devil. And so she went to Baby's mom and told her all about Baby's stories. "They must be encantos," Baby's mother said. Encantos are the enchanted ones, beings that only show themselves to people they like. Baby didn't have books or TV to give her the type of details that she was saying in her stories, so her family believed that she must be possessed by some sort of spirit. They decided that Baby needed to be taken to the church to receive the rite of exorcism. Thanks to horror movies, exorcisms have been portrayed as rituals to expel demons that are possessing a human being. But they were also performed to protect an individual who might be susceptible to the devil. "Begone, Satan, inventor and master of all deceit, enemy of man's salvation." After the ritual, Baby no longer went missing for periods of time. When asked about her friend Sven, she had no idea what anyone was talking about. Did she grow out of a face? Or did the ritual actually remove something from her? Years later, when Baby's cousin was much older and was living in the US, she saw a National Geographic magazine for the first time. And that's when she saw the flying machine with the spinning top and the clothes for being underwater. If you asked her today, Baby has absolutely no recollection of those adventures she went on, or her friend Sven, but her family sure does. So if Baby wasn't friends with an encanto, how does she know about helicopters and wetsuits? Things she had never seen before. Who or what would have done such a thing? There are some creatures so powerful and malicious that even speaking about them will make you their target. That's why so little is known about the skinwalkers, the legendary creatures of the Navajo Nation. Yinaldushi, another name for the skinwalkers, translates to he who walks on all fours.
Skinwalkers,
Skinwalkers,
skinwalkers, skinwalkers,
skinwalkers.
skinwalkers.
Skin of the animal they wish to take the form of, and once the transformation is complete,
For fuck. If I fucking see a skinwalker cunt, I'll fucking shoot it. Fuck skinwalkers. Fuck skinwalkers, bitches. I'll fucking shoot them. Fucking skinwalker cunt. Piece of shit. Anyway, let's head inside, head to bed. Wake up in the fucking morning for school. Let me show you around the office area, lounge room. Yeah, this is the lounge room. Actually, give me a second. Fuck. 3, 2. I just remembered I come from the balcony out there. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, my bed. Let me show you around, guys. The office area, lounge room, dinner table, kitchen, and then the bathroom. And then the spare bedroom here. So yeah, let's head to bed and wake up for school in the morning, I guess. I guess let's head out and head to school. Let's head to school, I guess, now.
Idiot, I left at rush hour.
My first day at high school. Let's go beat up some bitches. Who should I beat up? Nah.
I sure could use a sherry toss hour right now. I tried.
Get up.
I went all pro in college.
Hit me. Hit me.
No!
Get the fuck up. Get up.
You little shit. Oh, God.
Get up. Get up. Get up. Get up. Get up. Get up. Come here. Get up. Get up. Get up.
Así, mira la niña. What the fuck? Oye, uno con the thing. Oh my God.
Alright, what can I say about Tom? I really miss him, you know? God, I really do. It's the little things, you know? Like, when I pull some clothes
Let's
from
have a
the wardrobe
joint.
and his cologne would still linger there. Luke was the only thing that kept me going.
Who's your son, right?
Yeah, that's right. It was about a year after we had him that we found out that Tom had cancer. He hadn't been feeling well, but he had been putting off seeing a doctor. There was just so much to do in those early years, starting a new life together. The doctor said if only he saw them sooner, they may have detected the cancer earlier. Then it may not have spread. Then it may have been operable. Then he might still be alive. It was hard seeing him waste away. He was so sure that Luke was going to be a sports star like his dad. He couldn't wait for Luke to be old enough for them to throw a ball around in the yard together. By the time Luke was old enough, though, Tom was already too weak to even lift a ball, let alone go outside. He would just lie in bed all day, too exhausted and weak to do anything. Instead of playing sports together, they played pen and paper games. Luke really loved playing hangman, though. He loved guessing letters and silly words or phrases his father would come up with. And he really loved drawing that little hangman figure. He drew that a lot. He was terrible at the game, but it didn't matter. All that mattered was his dad loved playing with him, too. I would sometimes find them both asleep in bed, covered in paper. Tom would get tired easily and had this habit of dozing off. But rather than wake his dad, Luke would decide it was his nap time, too. He'd crawl right next to Tom and fall asleep hugging him. That day came when Luke woke up, but Tom didn't. When I found them both, he was holding on to Tom, hugging him tightly. He was crying and pleading with his dad not to go. I love you, Dad. Please don't go. We still haven't finished our game yet, he cried.
And how did Luke handle everything afterward?
He became very quiet and sullen, kept holding on to that paper pad and wouldn't let it go. I once asked him if he'd feel better if we played hangman like he used to with Tom. He just shook his head. To him, it didn't feel right for anyone else to finish it.
But that changed, right? Your report said...
Yes, it changed. About 4 months after Tom's death, Luke bounced back to normal. I just thought it was because children are more resilient, you know? I was cleaning his room one day and found his notepad. I flipped to the last page with that unfinished hangman game. Except he, N-I-C-E. My eyes were so wet with tears. The impossible was happening. It was Tom, and we were talking. I told him I loved him and missed him so much. My finger was still on the ring as it started moving. Notmuctime. What did he mean? Was he trying to say we didn't have enough time together before he died? Or that he doesn't have much time before he needs to go again? No, you left us too soon. Luke misses you too, I said. Lookafterluke. I am, and I will. It's been so hard without you here, you know? Or are you saying you've been looking after him? Because he says you've been playing hangman with him. I waited for a response, but the ring didn't move. I waited and waited, but it didn't respond to any more questions that night. Eventually, I went to bed. But you know what? For the first time for as long as I could remember, I was actually smiling. It may only have been a few words, but to me, it was everything.
Did you try to contact Tom again?
Of course I did. Every day I could. It was my obsession. IMALWAYSHRE. We talked about Luke and how he was doing in school. We talked about our honeymoon. We talked about the dates we used to go on together. FORYOU. We talked about anything and everything. It was sometimes surreal. Sometimes it was even passionate. There's some funny ones, you know. He once even spelled out, I watched you shower. Another time I told him that I didn't want to go to sleep because the bed seemed empty without him. I lie beside you when you sleep. It was almost enough to make me go to bed.
Can we talk about what happened that day you found Luke in his room?
Oh, that. Yeah, I guess. That's what this is really all about, isn't it? That's why you're here? I figured we'd get to this part eventually.
If it's not too hard to talk about.
Yes, it's fine. I've gone through it 1,000 times before with the police. What's one more? Like I said, I'm numb now. It's still a blur, really. I finished making dinner and called for Luke to come down. He usually yells back to me to tell me he's coming, but he didn't respond that day. I eventually tired of yelling and went to his room to get him. He was lying face down on the floor. His neck was twisted at an odd angle and his eyes were staring blankly at the wall. Near one hand was his pad and pen, that damned cursed Ouija board near his other. I just kept screaming his name over and over, hoping he could hear me. I just held him in my arms. My baby. My poor, precious baby. I was hugging him tight and kissing him. I refused to let him go. Not after losing Tom. I couldn't lose Luke, too. My eyes landed on the pad he was scribbling on. He had been playing hangman again. You were never alone. I am the hangman. I had a sickening realization that it may not have just been Tom that I had been communicating with. You were warned. At least not after that first night. A sharp chill began stabbing at my heart. The last game at the bottom. A completed drawing of the hangman figure scrawled beside it. It's the last thing I remember. Inside, I'm still screaming, you know? I don't think it will ever end. This holiday season, I was given an amazing gift, a Stranger Things themed Ouija board. And when I posted a photo of this gift online, many of you reminded me of the claim, I will never find a Ouija board. Since that episode, my thoughts on these talking boards have changed. So in this final chapter, I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to explore this fascinating game that evokes such a wide range of emotions in people and attempt to answer the question, are Ouija boards inherently evil? To understand the Ouija board, we must first understand how it came to be. The general use of the board today is to come in contact with those beyond the grave. Spiritualism, or the belief that the dead can communicate with the living, was huge in America in the late 19th century. And it's no surprise. Loved ones were dying left and right. The American Civil War had taken the lives of many young men. It was common for women to die during childbirth, and children died of diseases that had not yet been cured. Spiritualism gave grieving people a sense of closure, but some of the early spiritualist methods were too slow. Table turning, for example, required calling out each letter of the alphabet and waiting for a knock from beyond when the correct letter was said. Then, in 1886, a new trend was being spread among spiritualist camps in northern Ohio. They were called talking boards and were essentially what modern Ouija boards are today. A board with letters, numbers, yes, no, and goodbye, as well as a planchette. A man by the name of Charles Kennard saw a huge business opportunity in patenting these boards and selling them to those who wanted a more efficient way of communicating with the dead. Many people believe that the word Ouija was a combination of the French and German words for yes, but it was actually a word that came up during seance. In 1890, Charles gathered a group of investors to help brainstorm ideas for what to call their product. One of these investors was Elijah Bond, who had brought along his sister-in-law, Helen Peters. Helen was an intelligent woman who also happened to be a strong medium. Why don't we ask the board what it wants to be called? She suggested. They placed their fingers on the planchette and it spelled out O-U-I-J-A.
Get down. Fight me. Fight me. Get up. Fight me. Fight me. Fight me. Fight me.
See you again next week. What's up?
Fight me.
Estoy contigo, cabrón. Es una mierda. Asshole.
Fight me. Hit me.
Shit thing.
Hit me. 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 Get up. Hit me. Get up. Get up.
Rooms actually resembled those in my own house, but just in a
Let's chill and smoke. Here. Let's chill and smoke down this way.
I don't want to be here. You can. You fucking loser.
Chill.
This is it.
Let's chill here.
time period. I entered a room and saw something that really freaked me out. It was another figure sitting in a rocking chair, but when I studied it closer, I realized it was my mom. I smiled, noticing a familiar face. But after I entered the room, my mom turned on the light and the door shut behind me. With the bright lights, I could clearly see that this was just the imitation of my mom. I stood in horror as the facade fell and the figure took its shape from the rocking chair. I tried to rush out of the door, but it was locked. I shook the door violently as I heard the footsteps of the figure coming closer. And then I turned around. It stared at me in silence. And then it rushed forward, and I woke up. But this time, not outside. I woke up in my own room. A little while later, I came across a video on the Midnight Man game. I didn't see the connection at first. Later on, something made me think of the dream. I saw the similarities. I didn't sleep well after that. If you're unfamiliar with the Midnight Man, it's a game where you invite the Midnight Man into your home to chase you. If you ever do attempt it, and I hope you don't, be extra careful because you never know what exactly it is that you're inviting in. And our next story from Gina May, I hope I'm saying that right, will show you just what can happen if you let in something unknown. I was a member of the youth club at the time, so I was expected to join, but I didn't. Thank God I didn't. Thank God no one in our class did, considering what my schoolmates went through. Our house was pretty close to the school, and I didn't notice anything wrong during the event. So I was surprised by the news my mom came home with after Mass on Sunday. "It's good you didn't go to that youth camp yesterday," she said. I asked why, since it was so strange hearing it from my mom who wanted me to join those kinds of events. "A participant got possessed while asleep this morning and was brought to church." I didn't believe it at first, but hey, it's my mom. I didn't ask any more, and I didn't want to think about it. The next morning at school, we were rattled by the class next to us. They were screaming and running outside. Curious, we went to look at what they were running from. I was closest to the exit, so I had a peek before we were ushered back inside by a teacher. Some of the boys were blocking the door, but I saw a girl standing alone in the room, back to the door and facing the room. She was whispering something, but her eyes were asleep, as if she was unaware of what she was doing, as if she was sleeping. She spoke in a language we couldn't understand. We all tried to listen in, but the teachers pushed us away and took the girl. No one knew what happened to her or where the teachers took her. However, in the coming weeks, it was all we talked about. We asked the teachers for info, but they said nothing. But slowly, more incidents began to occur. More sleeping students standing upright in the halls and whispering things we couldn't understand. People were getting possessed from all grades, and the teachers were telling us nothing. It seemed to happen in our sleep. Even if you dozed off in class, there was a chance you'd stand right up and start acting unlike yourself. At this point, we were terrified, wondering if it would happen to any person in our class. Soon the possessions became more intense. One day, 2 more possessions happened in the same time block. We ran outside to find 2 of the girls speaking in that strange language. One of our friends finally told us that the language was Latin. We then stood in horror as one of the girls turned to the other, put her hands around the neck of her friend, and squeezed with all her might. We screamed and rushed forward to pull them apart. We tried so hard, but the girl had an iron grip. And the other girl who was getting strangled, she was just accepting it. It almost looked like she was smiling. Soon, a group of teachers rushed out and managed to pull the girls off of each other. The teachers took the girls away, and we never saw them again. That was the worst part. The sleep possessions seemed to happen to anyone. But once they did, there was no cure. We were scared, until one day we noticed a pattern. Those that were possessed were participants of the youth camp. Teachers advised us to let the possessed whisper what they wanted and to not touch them. It seemed that interfering with them or trying to wake them up would in turn make them even more violent. Later that day, we learned that we were a total of 9 students who were allegedly possessed. Apparently, during the night of the camp, some of the students weren't serious during a prayer ritual and angered the spirits. When the whole camp went to sleep, the angered spirits entered the dreams of the children and would slowly possess them over time, only activating until there were other children around. Like silent observers, waiting for an audience of kids to listen to their Latin sermons. And when they would be interrupted, they would strike back in force. We never saw those 9 kids again. They seemed to be taken to a special part of the school where the teachers would work on curing them. Some kids said it worked, and they transferred schools. Others said the teachers ended up just killing the students to stop their whispers. Whatever the outcome, I know one thing. Camp is canceled. Well, that was an absolutely horrifying experience. I have actually heard of something like this happening to a few people that I know. Not exactly the same way, but this experience of being taken over at a religious event is definitely something that is not uncommon. And now we've reached our final story about Kaylee, who was visited by a bullet-ridden monster one night. When I was 2 years old, we moved from Georgia to the southern part of North Carolina, around the Wilmington area. My mom had just found out she was pregnant with my sister, and the house we lived in with my grandma didn't have enough room for another baby. We moved to an apartment complex, and the place was fine at first, but I have a few memories of the place that don't really make any sense. On top of that, my parents always say I was a rather imaginative child. They said I was a bit of a dreamer with a few imaginary friends that I talked to, though I don't have any memory of that. I have memories of talking to people who were very real, but now that I look back, I realize that when they were around, it was wrong. Like they looked wrong, barely transparent, and they flickered as if I was seeing them out of my peripheral vision, even when I was looking straight at them. I thought that I was dreaming them up, but they seemed real enough. And there's always this feeling in my gut when I talked or played with them, as if I shouldn't be. A sense of danger. There were a few incidents where I was pushed or thrown whenever no one was near me, except my baby sister or my cat, and I doubt a toddler half my size or a cat would throw me 20 feet. There was a time when I was 4 or 5 when I was at the pool in the complex, sitting on the edge of the shallow end. Everything felt normal until suddenly I was thrown into the deep end. Both of my parents, my sister, and the few other adults at the pool were either in it or on the opposite side from me. No one was close enough to throw me. There was another time when I was 4. My dad was taking a night shift at the jail he worked for, and my mom was asleep. But that night, I was somehow lifted out of the top bunk of me and my sister's bunk beds and dropped to the floor below. It wasn't a hard drop, almost like I was lifted up and placed gently on the floor. I mean, if I was just dropped, I would have woken up from it, right? But I kept sleeping until morning, only then realizing that I was on the floor. But nothing of what I saw, heard, or had happened to me compares to that night, a week before we moved here to Kentucky. It was the middle of the night. My parents were asleep in their room on the opposite side of the apartment with their door closed and my door closed. But I heard it anyway. A tapping at the window. I slowly sat up in my bed and turned to face the window. I couldn't see that well because the headboard of my bed was against the wall the window was on, so I had to climb out of the top bunk and walk over to the window to see it, but I stood a couple of steps away from it just in case. The window didn't have a screen, only the glass, and pressed against that glass was 2 hands and a face.
Let's have a
A
smoke
face
now.
I'll never forget. His face was so disfigured I could no longer tell what he looked like, and it was too dark to make out things like the color of his hair or the color of his skin, though from what I saw, he didn't even have a human skin tone. His hands and his face were gray, as if he'd never seen the sun in a long time, though with all the blood on his hands and face, there was barely enough skin showing. His eyes were completely black, with no other color in them, and there was a sadistic smile on his face as he looked at me. The source of the blood was from 3 bullet holes in his face, and 1 in his shoulder. 1 bullet hole in each cheek, and 1 in his forehead. I was scared out of my mind just from seeing the man, but what he said was even worse. The window was cracked open.
If that was me and I seen it,
and through it, I heard...
you know what? What I'm gonna do, cunt? Kapa, kapa, kapa. Kapa, kapa, kapa. With my normal Glock, AP Glock. Kapa, kapa. Kapa, kapa. Gang shit. Gang shit, bro.
say... I didn't respond. Something in my gut told me not to. And even if it hadn't, I was too afraid to say anything anyways. Then he said it again, but differently, more stern, more angry. I said, let me in, little girl, open the window. Again, I didn't respond. The smile vanished from his face, and fresh blood started dripping from the bullet wounds. When he said it this time, his voice was deep, much darker than it had been before. It was so low that it almost sounded like a growl when he said, I said, open the goddamn window. I didn't respond for the 3rd time. Instead of repeating himself again, he started to scream, to curse. I realized with horror that his skin was peeling away, as if he was decaying, but at a much faster rate.
Let's head home, head to bed, wake up in the morning for school. I'm 15
Off the hook.
and my name is Isaac. Just,
Hell yeah.
I don't know if I told you at the start of, you know what I mean. So yeah, if I did, I'm sorry, but if I didn't, then I'm sorry. So yeah, if I did, oh good. But yeah, I forgot, so yeah. You know what I mean.
For sure.
This isn't my place.
Fuck you, pendejo. Yeah, boy. Fuck you.
Oh, right. Okay. There we are. Let's head inside now. Let's head to bed, I guess.